Well, now I'd like to go back and introduce again Jeffrey Jordan. You may remember Jeffrey was on, I think it was one of the My Bills with Chris, and he was showing us a structure that he built, and he talked about converting windows from 8 pane to 4 pane. And he kept saying, well, you know, it's easy, it's no big deal, but you've got to take your time. And I kept thinking, yeah, right, that doesn't look that easy to me. So I asked Jeff, I said, Jeff, I understand you keep saying it's easy, but how about coming back and showing us just how easy it really is? So that's what he's agreed to do. So this is how Jeffrey can take some of these plastic windows and doors and convert them to different windows and so forth, and the method that he uses to make this, quote, easy. So Jeffrey, thanks so much for coming back and doing this.
It's a pleasure. Let me see if I can launch my presentation here. I'm fresh out, or was fresh out of window castings. I'm actually in the process of an assignment for a local museum, building an O-scale model of a store that once existed in the community, doesn't exist anymore, and scratch building it just from photographs. And it included numerous windows and doors. And though you may have seen my HO scratch build in the past, where I just scratch built the windows and doors from styrene shapes, and O-scale, they're so much larger. And the castings like Grantline have so much wonderful detail in them. If I could reuse a Grantline casting, it would add to the model. And so you start hunting for Grantline, Tichy, and other castings to see if you can get something that resembles the subject. And in this case, I couldn't. Nobody made windows or doors that fit the size of the subject. So I did something that was new for me, which is I realized that these plastic windows and doors are cast in a very soft, easy to work with plastic. And so I started modifying windows and doors. And so I thought I'd show you tonight one that I actually recently did for the ongoing project, which is a door. And if you want me to come back and show you another window, I have another commission for a second building when this one is finished. So here we go. Here's the building under construction. You can see it's evergreen styrene. And there's the door size. And this is all scaled from the photographs. So I'm not rescaling the building to fit the windows and doors. I'm building the building as close to the prototypical dimensions as I can get it off of the photographs. And so as you can see, the doorway here into a storage area is a bit smaller than the standard door frame. And that's a Grantline 4-panel door, and that's the frame portion of it. And you can see it doesn't fit. So laid it in place there, got out my scale ruler, and it's a little dark there, but you can see that it's about 4 inches too long. And so that's what I'm going to need to deal with, is that the door, though the width is okay, it's a standard width in this case, the height is wrong, and I need to adjust for that. Incidentally, you can't, well, if you're really enthusiastic, I guess you can cut as much as you want and resize windows and doors extensively, but I try and get something, a window or door that's close, and so I can just make adjustments for it. So here we go. This doorway, we're going to make the first cut to shorten it. And what you can see I've done here is very selectively picked where I was going to cut. I didn't cut up at the top over here. I cut down here because there's a natural seam in the real thing. And so this is a good place. Your seam will easily be hidden. And so you can see I've started a little razor saw cut there. This is the only place where I used a razor saw, because the razor saw actually removes some material and could throw off your dimensions as opposed to a knife. But there's the first cut started, and there it's completed. Notice that I've gotten a nice smooth cut. I've actually dressed up this piece a little bit to make it absolutely smooth, and then glued it in, because this is going to give me the base to size the rest of the door frame. And so there's the door frame, and you can see it's way oversized even after the cut. And so again, measure it. Actually, if I go back for just a moment. So what I did there is I measured and marked right there with a very sharp knife, intentionally measuring a little oversized because it's easy to take a little bit more off. It's really hard to put some back. So here it is. You can see super sharp knife, carefully slice off at your mark. A great thing I've realized recently is you can get a box of 120 of these super sharp blades from Micromark. And so I no longer worry about running out of blades or pushing on with a blade that isn't quite as sharp as it ought to be. When in doubt, throw it out, put on your next sharp blade, your work will benefit from it. And so there's the first cut. Come back, and as you can see, it's a tiny bit oversized, about a half an scale inch. I use the fine emery boards and file that down until it's a just perfect fit. File a little, test it, file a little, test it, till it drops in place like that. And there it is. And you can see the seam is virtually invisible, looks like a natural seam. And the other one, you just do the same thing again. You mark it, you take it off, you cut it, you test it, you file it, you test it, you file it, and there it is, drops in. So now that's pretty much the easiest part. There you just got to be careful, measure carefully, cut carefully, leave yourself room for error by filing it down, because if you cut off too much, it's hard to put back. So now here's the door frame back out of the model on the door. And as you can see, this is a 4-panel door, which happened to be the same thing as my prototype. And so I really wanted this casting. And you can see the feature of using the casting rather than scratch building. Notice that it's textured, there are multiple layers. It's really a nice piece. And so it will be a feature. That's the front of the building. This door will be very prominent. And so using this nice casting will really add. And again, you can see there's the measurement in about the 4 inches. However, with the panel here, you don't want to just chop the 4 inches off the bottom. You'll end up with an odd looking door with these panels right at the bottom and the top having a lot of space. So I split it. It's 4 inches. So 2 scale inches down from the top and a mark again. Then with using the same metal straight edge and a sharp blade, slice it off, working slowly, carefully. Again, I did not use a razor saw because it would take out some material and throw off the dimensions. The scalpel doesn't really displace any material. You get exactly the 2 inches you wanted to take off, and you can see that the top of the door looks reasonable. And the next step, make sure, you try and cut as evenly and straightly as you can. But then I took a very fine emery file and made sure it was a really tight, clean, even, level cut. And you can see the other 2 inches sticking off at the bottom there. You do the same thing. You mark off the 2 inches. And here, of course, you've got the advantage that you can just mark right at the bottom of the door frame there, cut it off again with the scalpel and true it up. Again, leave it a little big, file it to get it down to even, and there she is, drops right in. And so that's resized door, matches the prototype very closely. Really happy with how that came out. The window is really not all that different. Again, you have a little bit of an issue with the window because here I was able to take all of the trim off at the bottom here and make the adjustment virtually invisible. With the window, because you've got center panes, you have to keep that the center centered. So you have to cut some off the top and some off of the bottom. And so you are going to get a little seam at the top. Again, cut it as finely and as carefully as you can, but just move the top down and the bottom up, and you shrink your window top for bottom, which is the precedent that I showed you previously. I did not shrink it side to side. Again, you could do that, but at some point you're getting an awful lot of seams and they're going to begin to show. So you need a casting that's close that you can alter. At some point, too many cuts, maybe you're back to scratch building again. But that's basically my technique. And this is new to me, though I've been scratch building for quite a while. It never occurred to me that you could just take all of these commercial castings and alter them. And now I've got all kinds of ideas for buying castings and combining them and otherwise altering them, partially scratch building them. It's really opened up the ability to detail structures with windows and doors other than straight scratch building. And these grout line and T-sheet parts are wonderful to work with. They're nice plastic. There's a soft plastic, so they cut easily. They take sanding easily, and really enable me to do a lot of things with the windows and doors. And in the not too distant future, hopefully, you'll see the finished product, that store that I'm working on with its windows and doors installed. I'm in the process of painting it right now. So it won't be next week's My Build, but probably before the end of the year, so I can get on to the next one. That's my presentation. Thank you.